Hello everyone, my name is Felix. I am a 4th year student at Macao Millennium College. Today, I will take you on a journey back in time to explore the history of Camus Garden. The origin of the name Camus Garden, literally White Dove Nut Park, is widely believed to date back to 1838. At that time, Portuguese merchant Lawrence Marquis, who resided in Pereira Villa, kept various animals in the park, including hundreds of white doves. The sight of these doves flocking and soaring through the sky was a spectacular scene. Additionally, the pavilions and structures within the park, when viewed from a distance, resembled a bird's nest. As a result, local residents began calling the park White Dove Nut Park, a name that has endured to this day. On October 29, 1808, Hu Shengguang submitted a memorial to the throne with the map of Macao attached. This map documented numerous Macao place names, many of which appeared for the first time in historical records when compared to modern maps of Macau. Among these, the White Dove Nut Park was notable, marked near the St. Paul Gate area on the map. The area where the White Dove Nut Park is located became adorned with flamboyant trees. Historical records indicate that Portuguese navigators introduced this species to Macau from Malacca around the Michin Dynasty period, approximately 1750. Gradually, these trees spread and flourished throughout the coastal regions of southern China. This proliferation and the area is poetic name, Phoenix Hill. But the tree species was notable absent from catalogue of plants observed in Macau, 1866, compiled by a Portuguese botanist. Later, in 1880, another Portuguese scholar conducting research in Macau similarly failed to document its presence. It was not until 1904 that the first Portuguese language botanical publication about Macau finally included records of the flamboyant tree. Brill's Garden was located near the St. Lawrence's Church, adjacent to Rua do Padre Antonio, a street named after Brill himself. The garden was designed in a traditional Chinese style, featuring an array of rare and exotic plants, including mango trees, lychee trees, and custard apple trees. However, what made the garden even more renowned than its flora was its aviary, enclosed by wild mesh. The aviary housed a diverse collection of birds that feeded and soared among the trees, earning it the nickname 100 Birds' Nest among locals, so it was often mistakenly believed to be the actual White Dove Nut site. In 1770, the wealthy Portuguese merchant Manuel Pereira purchased the land now known as Camus Garden and its northeastern parcel to construct a summer retreat villa with landscaped gardens. Around 1900, the structure underwent renovation works. The upper level was demolished. The front railings on both sides were replaced, while the original rooftop balustrades were preserved. In 1930, the rooftop balustrades were dismantled. Later in 1989, the Orient Foundation acquired Pereira Villa and replaced the original roof windows, which opened outward on both sides with diagonally designed shutters. The redesigned slant louvers and the conversion of the front greenery into a water feature have been preserved to this day. In 1780, Pereira leased the villa to the British East India Company, where he served as the official residence for the Superintendent of Trade in China, the company's chief victor, and other senior British officers stationed in China. In 1826, Pereira passed away at the cathedral, and his estate was inherited by his youngest daughter, Maria Pereira. In 1838, Lawrence Marquis married Maria Pereira, thereby became the proprietor of both the White Dove Nut and the Pereira Villa. In 1885, the Portuguese Macao government purchased the Pereira Villa for 35,000 patacas and repurposed it into the Camões Museum. In 1989, the Orange Foundation acquired the Pereira Villa for 15 million patacas, repurposing it as the headquarters of its Macau delegation. Wei Yuan, the renowned Nanjing scholar and reformer, visited Macau with the primary aim of gathering materials to supplement and revise his seminal work, Illustrated Treatise on the Maritime Kingdoms. During his stay, he was warmly hosted by Lawrence Marquis, who not only arranged a tour of the Camões Garden, but also had his wife entertain the guests with a piano performance. The hospitable Marquis further introduced his two children to Wei Yuan and, in a gesture of cultural exchange, requested the scholar to compose a poem resulting in the celebrated song of listening to a foreign lady's piano in a Macau garden. After leasing the Pereira Villa from the Portuguese merchant Pereira, the British East India Company promptly began transplanting and cultivating a vast collection of plants, shrubs, and trees gathered from across the Asian continent. This ambitious botanical project transformed the Camões Garden into the first botanical garden on the Asian mainland. In 1821, Mary Morrison, wife of Robert Morrison, China's first Protestant missionary, died from complications during childbirth. In a hurried arrangement, the Portuguese authorities sold a plot of land within the city walls, adjacent to the British East India Company's compound, to British for 3,500 patacas to serve as a burial ground. With this, Mary became the first Protestant lady to rest in what could later be formally established as the Old Protestant Cemetery. Robert Morrison, the pioneering Protestant missionary, was dispatched to China by the London Missionary Society in 1807. Arriving in Macau on September 4 of that year, his groundbreaking work included, in 1813, completing the first Chinese translation of the Bible, a milestone in cross-cultural religious exchange. In 1815, publishing a Dictionary of Chinese Language, Volume 1, Chinese Inaugural Comprehensive Chinese English Dictionary, whose linguistic and cultural impact endured for generations. The celebrated painter George Cheney, renowned across Britain and Ireland, relocated to Macau in 1825 and resided there for 27 years until his death. His prolific sketches and watercolors captures the landscapes, architecture, and people of Macau, Hong Kong, Guangzhou, and the Pearl River Delta, including iconic works such as the ruins of St. Paul's Before the Fire, the 13 Halls of Guangzhou, Queen's Road Central, Hong Kong, officially named Morrison Chapel of the Anglican Church. This structure was originally built in 1821 by the British East India Company as the first Christian mission house in Macau history. Following the withdrawal of the East India Company from Macau, the site was repurposed as a mortuary for holding bodies prior to burial. In 1857, the Portuguese colonial government issued a decree prohibiting future interments at the adjacent Protestant cemetery, leading to the chapel's abandonment. It remained in disuse until 1921, when Reverend Harry Deplete of the Anglican Diocese of Victoria oversaw its restoration. Luis Vaz de Camões, 1524 to 1580, was born in Lisbon, Portugal. In 1524, a soldier poet of the Renaissance, he lost his right eye during combat against the Muslim forces in Ceuta, North Africa, an injury that later became emblematic of his tragic heroical persona. In 1552, Camões was sentenced in Lisbon for wounding a court officer in a duel, leading to his exile. He subsequently entered the service of Afonso de Lorona, then Viceroy of Portuguese India in Goa, marking the beginning of his tumultuous Asian odyssey. In 1556, upon returning to India, Camões was arrested by the Viceroy of Portuguese India following defamatory accusations against him, and subsequently exiled to Macao. During his 2-year stay from 1556 to 1558, Camões is said to have composed part of his epic masterpiece, The Loose Ace in a Cave near Patani, a claim central to Macao's Camões mythology, though hotly debated by scholars. In 1572, Camões published The Loose Ace, the greatest and most significant epic poem in Portuguese literary history, a monumental work that immortalized Portugal's age of exploration. In 1840, Lawrence Marquis erected the first Camões monument at the stone grotto where the poet was said to have stayed. The cave entrance was adorned with a Chinese-style archway, its lintel inscribed with the characters meaning preeminent sage, flanked by a couplet. In talent and virtue, he surpassed all, yet envy bade him strive. His wondrous poetry now flourishes. This stone inserts his afterlife. In 1866, Portuguese sculptor Manuel Maria Bordello Piano was commissioned to case a bronze bust of Camões, mounted on a granite pedestal engraved with front verses 1 to 3 of Canto, from the Loose Ace in the original Portuguese, reverse a classical Chinese translation of the same verses. This remains the monument's current form today. In 1558, Camões boarded the now departed silver ship and fell in love with Diamond, a romance cut short by a tragic storm in the South China Sea. As the vessel wrecked, women brought lifeboats while men swam to safety, clutching his manuscript of the Loose Ace above the waves. Camões reached shore, only to witness Diamond's lifeboat capsized by the raging sea. He later memorialized her in two sonnets, My gentle soul, who has departed, and my Diamond, cast you left me. The question of whether Louis de Camões ever actually set foot in Macao remains hotly debated among scholars, yet regardless of historical veracity, his legacy has become an intolerable part of Macao's cultural mythology. The global acclaim of the Loose Ace following its 1572 publication drew international attention to Macao, and by extension to the White Dove Park. The park's Camões Grotto, in particular, has inspired generations of painters and poets to create masterworks in its honor, cementing its status as a site of artistic pilgrimage. Perhaps cultural wellness niceties themselves have lives that evolve with the tides of time. Each mark they bear a silent witness to history, yet godless of change. We hope they endure, continuing to reveal the kaleidoscopic soul of a place. As the Portuguese Macao government declared upon acquiring the garden from the Marquis family, this estate was secured not only for its historical significance, but because it remains the most enchantingly beautiful landscape in Macao, one worthy of our stalwart. Okay, that concludes my presentation. I hope this has given you a deeper understanding of Camões Garden. Bye.